We have Steve Fretzin coming on board talking about sales-free selling, driven, focused, passionate about helping attorneys reach their potential. Steve Fretzin is regarded as the premier coach, skills trainer, and keynote speaker on business development for attorneys. Over the past 17 years, a bit longer now, Steve Fretzin has devoted his career to helping lawyers master the art of business development to achieve their business goals and the peace of mind that comes from developing a successful law firm and a successful book of business. In addition to writing 4 books on legal marketing and business development, Steve has a highly rated podcast, Be That Lawyer. He also has monthly columns in Above the Law and Legal Biz World magazine. Steve, welcome to the conference.
Hey, thanks, Alay, and I'm so happy everybody's here. I think you may need to give me the screen sharing capabilities. Um, Boy, how do I look as good as that picture? I don't think that can happen, but I have a good photographer in Chicago if anybody needs one. Holy mackerel. But I'm so happy to be here, and I want for all of you that are here that are taking your valuable part of the day to really walk out of this, not only my session, but all of these sessions with so many actionable takeaways that you can leverage to get ahead as a lawyer, to marketing, business development, you name it. We want you guys to get ahead. So hopefully, I'm going to go through about an hour of material in about 30 minutes. If you have questions you want to give to Alay, he'll route them to me, or we can have them at the end or whatever we have to do there. But I just need to get co-hosting capability here.
Steve, you should be able to share.
Oh, well, there we go. All right. Then I can stop asking. All right, and let's just make sure this goes. And Lay, let me know we're good.
We're good.
All right. So as I mentioned, or Lay mentioned, I'm a 4-time author working on number 5 right now as we speak, which is crazy, but it's happening. I am the host of the Be That Lawyer podcast, which is 430 episodes, having a great time with that. Get to interview Alay and Mary and all these wonderful people that you're going to be seeing today. And the rest of the stuff you heard. I focus on only 2 things. I do business development coaching and training for ambitious individual lawyers. And I also facilitate currently 3, soon to be 4 roundtable groups. These are peer advisory groups so everybody can stay sharp and on top of their game. The question I have, and you guys can put this in the chat, is the taboo of sales in legal. What is it? And what I want you to put in the chat right now is, why do you hate sales? Want to see a list of answers, as crazy as you can think of, the better. But that's really what I want to get to is the reason I came up with my philosophy of sales-free selling, which we're going to talk in great detail about today, is because I never felt good selling services. I never felt good being sold services. And so, the idea that we could come up with a model that is a systematic methodology of how to do business development without ever feeling salesy, without ever feeling like you're trying to, jam a square peg in a round hole, that's what I want to work on. And I'm going to give you guys the reasoning behind it, and I'm going to give you actionable things that you can take away and start doing right away to be better at locking up more business. And a lot of the skills transfer to networking, a lot of the skills transfer to your personal lives. For example, asking better questions, okay? These are things that help with spousal relationships and teenager relationships, although, my teenager is a bit difficult. So, it takes a lot for him to answer a question like, how was school? Good. All right, that's the typical teenager answer. All right, so we got those in the chat. Let's move on. If you do not have a methodology, and again, they don't teach this in law school and they don't teach it at the law firm level, what are the consequences of winging it as a business developer? First of all, if there's a good chance that you're going to want to talk and you're going to want to provide free consulting and rates to people that ask you, tell me how to fix this, or what do you charge an hour? And giving away that information can sometimes turn them not into you, but away from you, and then you end up chasing after them. You lose control in the meeting to the buyer when they ask all the questions and you answer all the questions. I know it's counterintuitive to what you think might be the way to do it, but I'm suggesting that there's a different way and a better way, and you're going to hear all about it in the next couple minutes. The meeting can go in 100 different directions. Are they going to talk about their kids? Are they going to talk about dirty laundry? Are they going to talk about the matter? What's going to happen in this meeting? Who's controlling it if not you? They are, okay? And they could be all over the place. Also, the decision to work with you may be more transactional. It's more rate based than it is relationship based. And we need to get away from that. And of course, you may then waste time chasing after prospective clients who tell you things like, this sounds great. I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. I'll let you know. And I don't know if you guys know what that really means in America talk, but that's a no. It's a nice way of saying no. And the reason I know that is because that's what I say. And by the way, that's probably what you say. When you don't want to work with someone anymore that has invested time with you, you don't want to say no to them because that feels bad. And you don't want them coming back and trying to sell you after you've said no. So it's easier just to have them disappear and go away. So let's take it and break it down even further about what is sales-free selling, why did I come up with this, and why should we use it? First thing is we need to look at the traditional model of selling and why it doesn't work anymore. All right. And so think about, putting on your lawyer sales hats, and we're going to use what's called the traditional selling model. It's been around for 100 years. Essentially, you get in front of a prospect, you make a pitch. I mean, it's right there. Every lawyer knows you go out and you make a pitch meeting. That's what they call it. We're going out to make a pitch. All right. After you make the pitch, there might be a trial close. What do you think? Do you want to get started? Do you have any questions? All right. They then have objections about the price or the rates that you have. It might be objections that they need to hold off or think about it. It might be that they need to run it up the ladder to their boss. Whatever it might be, you scramble to come up with some ways of handling those objections with the idea that if you do a good job, you're going to close that business. And that's what we have done in sales for 100 years. The big problem with that, and by the way, this worked great in like the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, because there was no information. Basically, it was the selling the sizzle of the steak, if you know what if that reference, okay? You smell this, you hear it, you smell it, you see it, you want that steak, as an example, okay? Unless you're a vegetarian, then it's broccoli. All right, there you go. There's a problem with this model, and the problem is you, and the problem is me. And the problem is that we as buyers have changed the way that we buy. We don't buy like we used to because there's too much information. So we now have a buyer model that the sellers that you're talking to, and when you're selling, so take off your seller hat, put on your buyer hat. You're all now buyers. You're buying a car, you're buying a home, you're buying insurance, okay? Think about the process you go to. And the easiest one to goof on, of course, is car dealers. You walk into a car dealer and you're just gonna walk in, and the first thing you're gonna say when they approach you is, just looking. Not only do I say just looking, I go like this. I put my hands up. I go, just looking, just looking. I don't think about it. That's just what I do because I'm protecting myself with this invisible wall that I'm putting up to keep the nasty salesman away from me. So what I'm actually doing is I'm lying and I'm stalling because what I really want at that car dealer or at the talking to 3 insurance people or whatever it is, and we all want this as buyers, it's information and price. This is our warm, cozy blanket that we all use to feel secure that we're not going to get screwed. That's what we do as buyers. But then we have 3 people in the mix, right? 3 insurance people, 3 financial planners, 3 car dealers, 3 lawyers, okay? So what do? We get information and price from all of them, and then we tell lie number 2. Lie number 2 is that we're interested in working with them, and can they please send us more information? And that sounds all great, and we'll get back to you. You're not getting back to 2 out of 3 of those people, right? So what are you going to do as a buyer when you don't want to say no? We call this the Houdini, and I'm very good at it, and so are you. It's called a disappearing act, okay? And we just go away into the ether, and they go away, and everybody's happy, or so we think. So look at how these 2 systems interact or don't interact well anymore. Prospect lies or stalls to get the presentation, they get your information and price, you go to trial close, they lie again, more objections, and eventually there's a disappearing act. So if you're trying to lock up new clients and you're struggling with that, or it's not happening at the level, or maybe you're saying, oh, I lock up everything I meet. Maybe you're not dealing with big enough clients, right? Maybe your rates are too low. There's a number of reasons. But in this model, you as the buyer and as you as the lawyer, the buyers, the GCs, the CEOs, they have all the control because they're in the buyer position, okay? So how do we fix this? Well, I'm going to tell you real quick. We're going to change both models to ensure win-win outcome. We're no longer going to do the traditional model, and we're no longer going to allow the buyer model. We're going to control the sale by walking a buyer through the buying decision. And this is going to be a win-win outcome. So don't think for a minute you're walking away a winner and they're a loser, or they're a loser, you're a winner. That's the old model. The new model is everyone wins every time. Okay? You either get the business for the right reasons or you walk away from the business and you get your time back, and that's a win. All right? So let's break down this model. I've got some clients in the room as well. Feel free to put in the chat things that you've learned from working with me and from the program if you would. And let's go through this model in an abbreviated fashion. I spend up to 6 months working on this and other highly tactical, actionable things with my clients in my program that I run in this class that many of them are a part of. But let's go through it step by step. You walk into a meeting and they say, great, here's my problem, solve it. We're not going to do that. Remember, we're getting rid of that model. What we're going to do is we're going to build a relationship. The reason I have the skyscraper is we're going to work from the bottom up. Nobody builds a skyscraper starting at the 50th floor, right? We're going to start and put in the piers in the ground, and we're going to start from the bottom up. We're going to bring up something that we found out about them in our research. That was the person that connected you. That was doing a web search, looking at their website, whatever it is. Do your homework, be prepared, and get them talking about their favorite subject, which is themselves. We want to build trust. We want to build likability. We want to find things in common. We want to be like them. There might even be some morphing you have to do to be a better communicator. If I'm an extrovert and I'm dealing with an introvert, I may have to slow it down. I'm not going to do that now because I've got 30 minutes to knock this thing out instead of an hour. So here we go. So what does that all mean? What we need to do is we need to build a trust. And if we don't, it's going to hijack the rest of the meeting. We just launch into business. They don't know us, like us, or trust us. And we launch into answering their questions. The worst thing that can happen. We have to slow it down and take a few minutes to build some relationship. And when you don't, it can end up badly for everybody. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to establish a game plan. And if you've heard this before, I hope you're using it, because there's no better way to run a meeting than having a game plan and getting permission by the buyer to do it. So I've got a bunch of steps. I'm going to rattle through it. Alea, I might ask you to role play with me for a minute, but essentially we're going to set that game plan. We're going to agree on how much time we're meeting for. We're going to make sure that this is all about a fit. We're going to gain permission to ask questions, and we're going to move things forward, or we're going to end them as friends. So Alea, are you with me?
I'm with you.
All right. So we have just spent 10 minutes talking about businesses and how much fun it is to run a business, and you're a serial entrepreneur and all this great stuff. And then I would say the following. I'd say, Lay, we could probably talk about how cool running businesses are. But listen, I know how valuable your time is, mine as well. Just to make the best use of our time, would it be okay just to set up a quick game plan for us?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Okay. Yeah, great. I know we had agreed on an hour. We've got about 50 minutes left. And really, from my perspective, it was just to see if there's a fit, see if we might want to work together. Is that sort of how you see it as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. And what I'd love to do is spend some time really learning about you and your business via questions. And I do tend to ask some tough questions. Is that going to be all right as well? I won't overstep any boundaries though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And then was there anything specific you wanted to get out of today that you want me to cover?
I'd like to learn about, your services and how everything works.
Absolutely. And I can promise you we're going to get to that probably closer to the end of the meeting. But to that point, by the way, when we get to there, one of a couple things will probably happen. Either we'll figure out this is a great fit and we want to keep moving this forward to see if we can work together. Or if you or I don't feel that it's a good fit, we can both just be honest with each other, call it a day. I'll still be a good resource for you. We could stay friends. But are you okay with that, just being transparent about where we go?
Sure.
Awesome. And scene. Okay. So everybody, if that sounded salesy to you, if that sounded of course I went through it quickly, but the idea is it actually does the opposite, because what I'm doing by giving him permission to say no is I'm releasing the sales valve out of the meeting. We're taking sales off the table. He's either in or he's out. Both are okay. I'm fine with either. And that type of chill type of reality helps him to agree to the agenda that's going to make it all about him, not all about me. Okay. So I want you guys to just think about this. It works. It's been working for 20 years. And if it's uncomfortable, it's because you haven't really had a chance to utilize it. But What it does, it allows us to control the meeting for the rest of the time that we're doing this, which is critical because where we're going in the next step is all about discovery. So think about an iceberg for a moment. What do we know about icebergs, right? Most of you are iceberg experts. We know from the Titanic and other things that most of the ice is below the surface. It's the same thing with a new prospective client. What they're going to tell you openly about their problems and their needs for your services, it's all at the surface. And if you get them, good for you. If you get them and then start solving and selling and giving rates and everything, well, then I would say shame on you, because there's all that ice underneath the water that you haven't even gone and tried to get yet. So we can start with some background questions. Tell me a little bit more about your business. I see you're in a sign franchise business. Okay, that's cool. Tell me what's been going on. We get to the surface pain. What are your main challenges, frustrations, concerns? What are things that are keeping you up at night? And that's where we want to get. Some people would think that's the whole meeting, right? Just hear what their problems are and then start solving. I say nay, don't do that, because now we're at the surface of the water. This is where lawyers don't like to go, and they rarely go there. And if you do, good for you, all right? We want to now go to causation. So if I'm talking to a lawyer and the lawyer isn't getting in front of enough prospective clients to hit the kinds of numbers the lawyer wants to get to, I would say that sounds difficult. Can you tell me more about that? What's been going on? Then I zip my lip and I let the lawyer talk, let the buyer talk, okay? And then we get into, what are the reasons this is happening? Why do you believe this is happening? Well, I don't have a plan, or I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just winging it, and I'm not having good conversations, and I'm spending all this time networking, not getting anything out of it. No one's getting me in front of quality decision makers, okay? You want to get in front of 5 decision makers a month. Currently, you're getting in front of 1 or 2. So I wonder what the average cost a month is of you not getting in front of more people, right? If every new client you bring in is worth $20,000 and you want to get 3 deals a month, and right now you're getting 1, right? So that's $60,000 a month that you're not getting because you're not bringing in those clients, getting those meetings and locking them up. $60,000 a month over a year, we start doing the math on that and we start nodding going, wow, I see. There's a cost and an impact. What's the impact? The impact is you're not getting the car you want. You're not taking the Disney vacation. You're not socking a ton of money away for your kids' 529s and you got 3 of them, okay? So there's a cost and an impact that we can find by digging down deeper and really going to the bottom of that iceberg. Ultimately, what I'm looking for are compelling reasons to change. If I'm talking to a lawyer who has no compelling reason to take action to grow a book of business, and you're all here to learn and to do that, but if you don't have a compelling reason to change, why am I going to keep going forward? What's my motivation to want to spend more time with you if you have a bunch of problems you want to solve, but you're not willing to put in the investment to do it? So that's where I might cut off the meeting and say, you're a lovely person. Let me, refer you somewhere else. Okay, so background questions leading to surface pain. What we're really shooting for is to identify pain, fear, and gain. That's where the business is, the motivation to change. If that motivation to change, and think about it in estate planning, think about it in divorce, litigation, whatever area you're in, you need to have motivation to change in your buyer to get them to leave the firm they're with. It's a big deal to change financial planners or insurance agents or lawyers. There's got to be a motivation. If you're not digging down to find it, it's probably transactional and it's probably not going to happen at the rate or the level that you'd like. Okay? I'm going to probably answer questions at the end is my guess. All right, and we're cooking along here. So it's the difference between a needs analysis and a deep dive discovery. One of them is going to get you much further along, not only in the meeting, but from a standpoint of relationship. Think about this. If I'm a therapist and you're coming to see me as a therapist and you tell me that you have a problem, I immediately start solving it and selling you and telling you about how great I am and how great my degrees are and all that. Would you rather spend an hour that way, or would you rather spend an hour with me listening and asking you deeper questions and eventually pull out a Kleenex box and start crying and you never told anybody these secrets before, but you're telling me? What's the likelihood that at the end of the meeting you're going to say, Steve, I feel so much better. Next week I'm going to go meet with another therapist? It's probably pretty slim. So we're building a tremendous amount of trust and relationship using this model versus the model where we just sell, pitch, and convince. Okay. So once we get compelling reasons to change, we're not done yet. There's a few other qualifiers I want to walk you through that are really important. You've got the compelling reasons to change, but are you committed to making a move, to making a decision? So I would ask two questions. In your opinion, based on everything you shared with me, is this a could, a should, or really a must fix situation? And if the answer isn't a must fix, either I did a lousy job asking questions, or you're maybe hiding a little secret, like you don't have the money, or you're not the real decision maker, or whatever it might be. And put yourself in the mindset of thinking about the last number of people you met with that said, maybe think about it, I'll get back to you. There are secrets that are there that they're not telling you. Okay. And our job is to get to the honesty and to get to the truth in a meeting. That's why we set that agenda of a number of reasons. And is this something you'd like my help to fix? If the answer is yes to both of those, I'm going to continue and I'm going to ask a few questions about the decision maker. Because right now, I believe you as the lawyer are the decision maker. You believe the person that is the CEO of the company you're meeting with is the decision maker. Is that really true though? Let's find out. Let's ask a few questions that aren't going to hurt the relationship. But again, it's all about transparency. So other than yourself, Joan, who else, if anyone, would be involved in a decision to change law firms? And Joan says, it's just me. I'm the CEO. Do I believe Joan? Let's find out. Here's another question. That's great, Joan. Would you mind just taking me through the process you're going to go through to make this happen? Well, yeah, I just need to take your proposal. I need to bring it to my CFO, run it by the board, talk to my dog, whatever it is. Okay. We realized that in her mind, she's the decision maker. But when we asked about the process, that's when we understand she's one of the decision makers, not the only decision maker. Okay. So it's these extra questions that are protecting our time and are protecting this opportunity from going bye-bye. Because if I give her the proposal and she runs it to the board, to the CFO, and they're just going to shoot it down on price alone, this is over. And she's never going to get back to me. All right. So this is why we need to, in the meeting, have these questions put out front. And we've got one more big one. Some of the lawyers won't need to do this as much as others, but it's really about understanding in discovery. Did they tell you, for example, they're with a mid-market firm, they're paying $500 an hour. If you know they're paying $500 an hour or what they've been paying a year, that's very helpful. Because if I'm charging $300 an hour or I'm charging $800 an hour and they've been paying $500, that might be problematic. Because if you're too low, you're a moron, and if you're too high, you're too big for them, potentially, right? So we really want to get as much information in the discovery about the money situation as we can. And are they willing and able to invest to move forward? What's their budget? And what happens if you come in too high or too low, like I just said? So these are quite, you don't have to ask all these questions, but it's about getting, and you might already know this just naturally through the course of the meeting, you may be able to just skip this step. As long as you know that they're willing and able to make a change and invest, you're fine. But it's when you don't know that they're going to pay you a flat fee at $20,000 and they've got $50,000 in credit card debt. Wouldn't it be good to find that out and know that in the middle of the meeting versus when they don't return your calls because they're broke? Okay. So the question I have for you guys, and you can give them a range if you're not really sure where they are. But the question I have for you is, would you rather present solutions and rates to someone who you don't know that they've got compelling reasons to change, you don't know if they're committed, you don't know if they're the decision maker, you don't know if they have the financial wherewithal, or would you rather present solutions and ideas and rates to someone who's basically ready to go and is completely qualified? We're qualifying them as much as they're qualifying us. Okay, that leads us to our last step, which is presentation. Notice that I'm not doing any presenting, I mean, if I can help it, until the end. I mean, if somebody wants to hear my infomercial or I have to use a third party story to explain something, that's fine. But I'm not going to answer questions about rate. I'm not going to answer questions about solutions or anything free consulting until basically I know they're committed to do something. And I also want to know what they need to see, hear, experience to say yes. And again, these are all done in a very nurturing way, not in a salesy way. But we are going to eventually sell to their pain. If their pains are XYZ, that's what I'm going to talk about solving, not everything, right? We want to keep it really tight. Only cover the areas that were brought up in discovery. Don't oversell. What does the prospect need to see, hear, experience? For example, I run everybody through an audit of my class. I run them through talking to some of my clients all before we even have a conversation about what the fees are, what we're going to do together. So they know what the ROI is. They know the quality of the group that I run and what they're getting for the value first. Then we can talk about, are they willing to invest, whatever that is at the end. Okay. But I only want to bring up what they care about, not what they don't care about. Establish a specific next step to ensure you don't lose them. So again, if there is a next step, set it up in the calendar. Get a date and time. Don't leave things hanging if you can help it. All right? So time management is key. You don't have to sell to anyone who's not qualified. You can walk away. Presenting too early is the number one reason for losing new opportunities. Here's a great, great mantra. Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Just think about that. Go to a doctor, my arm hurts. Oh, we'll cut your arm off. Well, that's not a great idea. Maybe you want to ask a few questions. And then never move forward with someone until you've completed the step before. So, wrapping up, stop selling and pitching. Let's learn sales-free selling. Read a book, come to class. I got a free audit for you if you want to come to class. Don't fall into the buyer trap and stop winging it. Use a proven process. That's the key. For free books, you can email me at steve@fretzin.com. And of course, if we have a few minutes, I'm happy to answer questions. That was as fast as I could go, but hopefully that was well worth it, because what we're talking about here is locking up a very high level of business using a methodology that's been proven. Elaine.
Yeah, what questions do you have for Steve Fretzin? Put it in
Almost
the
out
chat
of words.
or use the Q&A.
Whatever you want to do.
I got to tell you, Steve, I've seen a lot of presentations on, kind of new ways of selling and different ways of selling, and this was one of the best. You compressed the entire process. It was clear, it was concise, it was done in 30 minutes, and absolutely loved it. For those of you that have talked to myself or talked to Steve, we both believe that having a book of business is an incredibly empowering thing as an attorney, right, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it is the single most important thing for control and freedom. Whether you're solo, whether you're at a firm, there's no other better way to go.
And
So,
Steve, we're getting requests for sharing the recording. How do you feel about that?
yeah, happy to share the recording. Happy to share the deck if you want to share the deck, or I can share it. But yeah, I mean, anything I can do to help you guys. I'm in this for the long haul for the industry, and if I pick up some clients along the way, that's okay.
Question coming through here. Will you please explain more about framing the meeting and releasing the sales valve in terms of who owns the room, who is in power, or I guess who's in control?
The prospective client or the buyer is going to feel like he or she is in control because they're the ones doing all the talking. We need to establish that game plan and get permission to ask questions and tough questions, because that's where we want to spend most of the time in the meeting. Where it can be challenging is when you have multiple people in a meeting. If you've got a room full of people, this is very hard to do. I always try to keep it to who I believe is the decision maker and make it a one-on-one if you can. If it's two people, I would do more research, try to find out what their relationship is. Are they friends? Are they enemies? Whose fault is it? Whatever it might be. But ultimately, the best scenario is for if you deal with GCs, if you deal with COs, don't let anyone else in the room. You want someone basically crying in your arms about their problems, and they're not going to do that in a room full of underlings or people that might actually be the problem.
Next question. This is probably be the last one for you, Steve, for this talk. And it's really more of a statement. So then, do you think it's possible to close an engagement with a client who is driven by cost or expediency? They don't want the whole relationship building thing.
Yeah. You don't need to build a big relationship, but I think people have a need to be understood. People have a need to be listened to. And when you're asking questions and listening and repeating back and finding pain, we take a transactional situation and we move it to relationship. And here's a secret tip. When you ask the best questions and you're competing against other lawyers that don't, they're going to believe that you are the expert more than anyone else, and your rates are going to go up. I have lawyers charging far beyond what they were before they worked with me because of the way that they're running these meetings and how they're being perceived in the market, being perceived by the prospective clients. So it's like belief is stronger than reality, and in this system, it absolutely is true. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Steve. Great to see you in action. Always
Thanks,
lots of
everybody.
great information.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thanks, and let's keep it going for the rest of the team today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Folks, that was a great one-two punch between Mary to kick us off, going through a couple quick case studies on branding, and then Steve showing us how it's done with the new model of business development, sales free selling.